corrections for a period of life. You will get credit for any of the time that you...
Some of the bruises were in the shape of a belt buckle.
Man, I ain't gonna let you make it. I ain't gonna let you see.
Number 1. Adam Lee Hall. This is Adam Lee Hall. The police said he kidnapped, murdered and severed people. He's charged along with 2 others with killing David Glasser, Edward Frampton and Robert Shadwell in August 2011. On August 28, 2011, 3 Pittsfield citizens, Edward Frampton, David Glasser and Robert Shadwell, were abducted, killed and dismembered. The prosecution has alleged that Adam Lee and 2 others, Biovis Hall and David Charlieu, were responsible for the heinous crime. From the moment Adam Lee entered the courtroom, his demeanor captivated everyone. Known for their tough image, Hell's Angels members are often associated with an air of defiance. However, Lee surprised many with his calm and collected demeanor throughout the proceedings. Adam Lee's reaction in court has been quite fascinating. It's not uncommon for defendants to display varying emotions during the trial, ranging from anger to anxiety. But Lee seemed unperturbed. His composed demeanor may be a strategic move by his defense team to present him as a rational and responsible individual. During the prosecution's opening statements, Lee was observed attentively, listening, occasionally jotting down notes. He maintained eye contact with the prosecutor, indicating a focused and analytical approach. Lee's reaction in court could also be calculated attempt to project innocence. By not reacting emotionally, he aims to distance himself from the criminal activities he's being accused of and demonstrate a level of detachment. It's intriguing to watch how Lee handled himself in court. Whether guilty or not, his poker-faced expression has definitely left an impression on everyone here. As the defense team presented their arguments, Adam Lee's reaction remained consistent. He appeared engaged and showed no signs of discomfort or agitation. This approach could influence the jury's perception of him. Legal analyst, even during intense cross-examinations, Lee maintained his composure. He never lost his cool or showed signs of frustration. This could be a strategic move by his defense to portray him as a rational individual who is falsely accused. As the trial reached its final day, Adam Lee's reaction continued to intrigue everyone present. Whether it's a result of calculated strategy or his true personality, his stoic demeanor has undoubtedly sparked discussions inside and outside the courtroom. Number 2. Joseph Lancier. The head of the Hells Angels chapter in Rhode Island is sentenced to 5 years at the adult correctional institutions after pleading guilty to multiple felonies. Joseph Lancier was officially sentenced by the court. Lancier fired an illegal firearm at the driver of a vehicle passing a Hells Angels clubhouse in Providence. The victim, a prior candidate of membership in the Hells Angels chapter in Rhode Island, was embroiled in a running argument. The defendant pulled a semi-automatic weapon from his pocket and fired 1 shot at the victim's mock semi-truck. It passed the clubhouse. The defendant then entered the clubhouse as the victim continued to drive away after the shooting and turned his truck onto Messer Street. After the incident, a digital video recorder with recorded shooting footage was removed from the clubhouse. Another known Hells Angel from Rhode Island was retained and accused misprision of a felony concealing the crime. Joseph Lancier was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, firearm possession without a permit, assault with the intent to render unconscious Attorney General Peter F. Noronha emphasized that the defendant posed a substantial threat to the safety of Rhode Islanders. A head of a group known to engage in criminal conduct within the state, in addition to the 2019 shooting, Lancet was charged with assault during a brawl involving Hells Angels Providence strip club on February 29, 2020. During the altercation, the defendant punched a man, causing him to lose consciousness. Providence Police Department officers at the scene promptly took the defendant into custody. Rozier was given a sentence of 15 years, with 5 years to be served at the ACI and the remaining time suspended with probation. Additionally, a no-contact order was granted for Lancia's victims. She was mandated to pay $3,650 in reparations. If he felt any remorse, he didn't show it. Exceptional cases like this are prioritized by the office. Valencia's issue is severe, but arguably minor in the case of Jonathan Nelson, wasn't this? Number 3. Jonathan Nelson. This is Jonathan Nelson, aka John 46 of Santa Rosa. Nelson is one of the 3 members of the Sonoma County Charter of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. He has been found guilty of murder in aid of racketeering for 9-week trial before United States District Judge Edward M. Chen concluded that Jonathan Nelson, Wendt, and Russell Taylor Ott, also known as Rusty, were involved in a criminal enterprise that engaged in a wide range of violent crimes, including murder, assault, robbery, distortion, and witness intimidation. U.S. Attorney Stephanie M. Hines stated that the verdict resulted from a lengthy, intensive investigation and warned other similar criminal businesses that such violent activities would not be tolerated. Special Agent in charge Sean Reagan of the Federal Bureau of Investigation added that the guilty finding was made possible by the important skills and resources offered by numerous agency partners, including the California Highway Patrol Santa Rosa Police Department. The trial focused on the murder of former Hells Angels Sonoma County member Joel Silver, which the prosecution alleged was orchestrated by Nelson Wetfont Silver, was causing issues for Husk for various reasons. The defendants believed he needed to be killed. Nelson, who was leading the Husk, then made plans to have Silver killed in Fresno, with Ott, long-serving member who was friendly with Silver's family. Ott transported Silver to Fresno, where Wendt shot him in the head at the Fresno Hells Angels clubhouse. Silver's body was then burned. The trial's evidence also demonstrated Husk's involvement in witness intimidation, extortion, drug trafficking, and robbery. Witnesses claim that Husk had a reputation for threatening anyone who reported their activity to the authorities. Additionally, evidence showed that the defendants threatened the lives of witnesses and their families to dissuade them from cooperating with law enforcement. Victory, who found all 3 defendants guilty of participating in a conspiracy involving racketeer-influenced corrupt organizations and a conspiracy to murder. In furtherance of racketeering, Nelson was also found guilty of using or possessing a firearm in connection with violent defense and assault with a dangerous weapon. In aid of racketeering, the 3 Hells Angels members were sentenced to mandatory life terms in jail, restitution fines, and forfeitures. Number 4. Maurice Bosher. They remained unmoved even after their fate was communicated to them. The crime Nelson and his group committed, although horrific, hail in the face of Maurice Bosher. The next is Maurice Bosher. Bosher was the president of the Quebec chapter of the Hells Angels' notorious drug dealer murderer. He led the group against the rival Rock Machine gang during the Quebec Biker War from 1994 to 2002. He was found guilty in 2002 of ordering the deaths of 2 correctional officers in Quebec, undermining the Quebec court system. Bosher was sentenced to 3 life sentences and sent to Sainte Anne to play Canada's only supermax prison, where his crime continued. He would spend the rest of his days in jail, but still plugged into organized crime, ordering murders in 2018. He had another 10 years tacked on to a life sentence. Now, the reason Bosher became what some have called a folk hero in Quebec is that most of the victims of the Biker War were criminals, but not all the journalists who covered those years. They are names of innocent victims that are impossible to forget: prison guards who were killed, Zion Living and Pierre Aldo Daniel. The 11-year-old boy playing in a park was killed when a jeep nearby was blown up, and Yves Alba, the father of 2, gunned down, gassing up his car. He was shot 9 times because he was mistaken for a biker due to his notoriety. While incarcerated, Boscher was targeted for assassination and was housed in a special prison section. Boscher had 2 children, Alexandra Monjo and Francis Boscher, who were also connected to organized crime. Boscher gave the go-ahead for the 1997 murders of Quebec Correctional Guards Diane Levine Pierre Rondeau during the conflict between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine. The selection of both policemen was random. Boscher intended bikers to commit crimes so heinous that prosecutors would not want to strike bargains to turn bikers into spies. In addition to the blow of Quebec's court system, a jury cleared Boscher of ordering those killings in 1998, but the police started to pursue him closely. He was detained again in 2000 after an appeals court overturned the earlier acquittal. In May 2002, he was found guilty of the killings. Thanks to a police informant, the Crown attorney Franz Carbonneau frequently got death threats during the trial. The prosecution's main witness, Cordar's old shoe, was involved in both killings. He said Boscher gave him the go-ahead to commit the murders. Boscher later thanked him for this work. Shane died in prison in July 2002. Boscher's life would teach other bikers to abide by the law. This lesson was lost on Zane Wallace. Number 5. Zane Peoria Wallace. Next is Zane Peoria Wallace. Zane is a member of the Hells Angels gang. He was in court for the murder of Jasmine Wilson, another high two, and a court in Wangani incident occurred in 2019. Wilson died unconscious and severely injured at Wangani Hospital's emergency room. Wallace was found guilty of obstructing justice with 4 counts of threatening great bodily harm, 3 counts of assault with a purpose to injure, 2 counts of threatening to kill, and 1 count of assault and threatening demands. During the sentencing, emotions and tensions rose high between the families of Wallace and Wilson, leading to a near brawl in the courtroom. The police and court security had to separate the 2 groups as they shouted abuse and threatened one another. In her victim impact statement, Wilson's mother, Brenda O'Shea, spoke of how Wilson's murder had destroyed the relationships between her other children. Zane was sentenced to life imprisonment and must serve for 15 years and 6 months before being considered for parole, just like Zane. In Wanganui, a gang in Berlin committed similar crimes and Kadir P. led them. Number 6. Kadir P. A German court found 8 members of the notorious Hells Angels motorbike organization guilty of a brutal execution-style murder in 2014. Men aged between 30 and 37 were given life sentences by the Berlin Regional Court for their role in the deadly attack on a betting business in the city. An additional individual who provided information to assist in the case's resolution was given a 12-year term. The leader of the Hells Angels chapter in Berlin, Kadir P., aged 35, was found guilty of inciting murder and was also handed a life sentence. 1 other individual was found guilty of gun violations despite being clear of involvement in the murder. The shocking attack was carried out as a revenge fight. The victim had been involved in a gang and showed no reaction to the things as they were taken away.